Cause two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Hey guys, so last night was the 4th episode of the second half of the second season of Pretty Little Liars. The episode was called The Blonde Leading the Blind. Let's get to it. The episode starts with the 4 girls in Spencer's kitchen, and they're about to look at one of the files that Caleb was able to crack from A's phone, which turns out to be a video from the night that Allison went missing. The video starts with the video that we've been seeing forever now with Allison and Ian in the woods, but then it cuts to Allison's bedroom, and Ian's in there by himself, and he's setting up the camera and like hiding it behind something, and that's when Garrett and Jenna walk in. So Ian's like, well, where's Jason? And Garrett's like, oh, well, he's passed out somewhere. You know, a 6-pack and some weed will do that to you. Excuse me? Jason has been saying this whole time that he can't remember anything at all from the night that Allison went missing, right? I'm sorry, but unless you're a complete lightweight, which maybe Jason is, but he's built up to be some big party animal, so I doubt it. But unless you are, a 6-pack and some weed is not going to black you out to the point where you can't remember anything at all, like you've been roofied or something. Like, not that I've been there or anything, but it's just not going to happen. So either Garrett's lying, Jason's lying about not remembering anything, or maybe he's a lightweight. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into this. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Anyway, so Ian starts telling them about how he just met up with Allison and tried to convince her to give him the tapes back, the ones of them like watching the girls change and stuff throughout the years, and she wouldn't give him back. So Garrett gets pissed and he starts yelling at Ian like, oh, I knew we'd gone too far and I knew that these videotapes would come back to bite us. So they start searching Allison's room, seeing if they can find where she stashed the videos, and that's when they find that little wooden box that Jason gave Ari in the last season, and Garrett opens it up and makes kind of like a weird face, but then of course the camera freezes and then it cuts to the opening credits. The next scene is at school, and it's the 4 girls sitting outside in that little lunch area, and it's just Spencer talking about her situation with Toby, and Aria talking about her situation with Ezra and how he's still not answering her calls, and she doesn't know where they stand and all that. And then she starts talking about how her and Holden have another date coming up, because as we saw in the last episode, they pretty much decided that they're going to continue using each other to go see other people behind their parents' backs. Then the girls start talking about, wait for it, Holden being gay. Who knew? Oh, wait, I did. The next scene is Caleb sitting outside of some cafe, and he's trying to crack another one of the files from A's phone, and I'm pretty sure that it's a continuation of the video from the beginning of the episode, and all he sees is like a still from the video, and it's like a blurry person. And then when it clears up, he sees that it's Garrett, and he starts to freak out because Garrett is sitting at the table right in front of him at the cafe. So now Caleb's thinking, okay, it's about time to hit that old dusty trail. So he starts packing up all his stuff and is ready to run out of there when Garrett stops him. And that classic thing happens where we're supposed to think that he's about to call him out and like kill him or whatever. But he's like, oh dude, you left your keys on the table. And then he starts going into like this weird comment that maybe it's supposed to be foreshadowing, but I don't see it, because to me it's just weird. He's like, yeah, you know, I know all about those moments where you just completely space out and like forget where you are, and you know, suddenly you're like, where did I drive to just now? Like, as weird as that just sounded, that's how it was in the episode if you didn't watch it. So I don't know. Weird moment, I thought. And did anyone else notice the big, bright red A written on the wall in between those two during the conversation? Because I sure did. And, I mean, I know that it wasn't just like the letter A written on the wall. It was a part of the word T. But it was definitely predominant in the word. And, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'm going to say that it was intentional. The next scene is in Ari's room, and the 4 girls are going through Allison's little wooden box, and they find all the notes that Allison had hidden in her little doll from the Halloween episode, the ones from A. So that's pretty much when the girls realize that A has been after Allison even before A started going after them. The next scene is at school, and Mona's really pissed at Hannah because she never called her back after Noel broke up with her, and Mona grabs this necklace that Noel had given her, and she goes to give it back to Noel, and then Noel ends up throwing it in the trash like the douche she is. So then Mona starts crying and runs to the bathroom, and Hannah goes to comfort her. And then something huge happens. Mona starts talking about Noel's eyes, and this is huge because if you've really been watching the show and you've really been following the show, you'll remember that there were at least 2 times where there have been mentions of A's eyes, like specifically. Like there was one, I think it was the first season, where they were at that bracelet shop with Mrs. Garrett from The Facts of Life, and she's talking to A from A's point of view, and she says something about A's eyes. Like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but she says something about it. If you don't believe me, you can go look it up. And then there's another one, which was just in this past finale, you know, the one where A has kidnapped Miss Sullivan, and it ends with them in like some kind of diner, and then Miss Sullivan walks away, and a waitress comes up to A and calls he, she, it pretty eyes. So this whole time I've been like, what's the deal with the eyes? Like trying to figure out who's got pretty eyes or like distinct eyes. And I've been thinking maybe it's Mona because of the whole Asian thing, but now I'm like, it's no. It's totally no. Anyway, so Jenna was in the bathroom stall during that whole conversation that Mona and Hannah had about Noel, so you know that can't be good. Then it cuts to Aria in an empty classroom, and she's calling Ezra, and of course he doesn't pick up, so she leaves him a voicemail, and she's like, hey, you know, I really, want to know what's up with us, but we need to do it in person, so if you think that there's still a chance with us, meet me at 8 in front of some clock, and if not, and then the message cuts off, but obviously if not, then that means they're over. And it shows Ezra gets a voicemail, but he ignores it for now. The next scene is the one that we all knew was going to happen. It's the one from the preview. Toby goes over to Spencer's house and gets on that big scaffolding, and because of what A did at the end of the last episode, Toby falls off. The next scene is at the hospital. Spencer's there visiting Toby, and they're just talking about the accident, and then Ren walks in, because he's a doctor, and that makes for a really awkward moment for Spencer, because Toby's like, oh, well, how do you guys know each other? And then Ren's like, oh, well, I used to be engaged to her sister, until something got in the way. And then he looks like completely lovingly at Spencer, so obviously Toby catches that. Awkward. The next scene is in Hannah's kitchen. Caleb is telling her about this video that he got from the phone, the one that he was working on at the cafe, and Hannah freaks out because Caleb tells her about how he saw Garrett in the video, and then Garrett happened to be right there at the cafe with him too. So she takes the flash drive he has the video on, puts it in the blender and purees the crap out of it, and basically tells him, you're done with this. Like, I don't want you working on these videos anymore. The next scene is back at the hospital, and Spencer's like, Emily, I need you to do something for me because it's the only thing I can think of that will for sure keep Toby safe. So then Emily's like, okay, what do you want me to do? And then it's like a long dramatic pause, music gets higher, close up on Spencer's face, and then it cuts to a freaking commercial, and I'm just like, I can't take this anymore. Like, this show is gonna give me ulcers. We get back from commercial break, and it turns out that Spencer had Emily tell Toby about the Ren thing, about how Spencer and Ren kissed, and not the kiss that broke up him and Melissa, like the kiss while she wasn't with Toby, like while she was trying to stay away from him to keep him safe. And I swear, I have not gotten closer to tears throughout this whole show than I did watching that, because he was so heartbroken. The next scene is Aria's mom dropping off Aria and Holden for their date, and it's also the scene where we find out that Holden's not gay. Shoot. But that kind of makes it more interesting because my friend that I was watching it with brought up a really good point that I think she's totally right about. She thinks, and I totally agree with her, that Holden is the guy that Maya was talking about, how she hooked up with some guy while she wasn't with Maya in the last episode. Yeah, riddle me that. Calling it now. If that's true though, they would make the weirdest looking couple, mostly because Maya is more manly than he is. The next scene is in Ezra's office. He's talking to one of his students about one of their papers, and the paper is essentially talking directly to Ezra, because it's talking about like being bold and taking chances and following your heart and all that. So that basically inspires Ezra to listen to the voicemail that Aria left him finally, so he does. Then we're back at the hospital. Ren comes into Toby's room, it's just them two, and Toby confronts Ren about what Emily told him. And it's kind of hot, because he basically threatens to beat him up with his good arm. The next scene is Hannah and Mona walking down the street. I think they're about to have a girls' night or something, and Mona's talking about how she has a fake ID that she got from an old friend. And if you saw the preview for this next episode, you saw that something from A's phone that Caleb found has to do with someone's fake ID. so I'm guessing that that's definitely going to come into play in the next episode. But anyway, they're walking down the street and they walk past a restaurant, and who do they see sitting there? Noel and freaking Jenna. And then before Hannah and Mona walk away, Mona gives them the biggest stink eye ever. And I don't even think it has to do with the fact that she is still like bitter about the breakup or anything. Like I said in the last review, there is something up with her and Noel. Back on Arya's date, of course, Ezra comes. Yay. And, you know, big dramatic kiss in the rain, world literally stands still. They're like in the middle of the road and nothing's moving. So it's basically a big Notebook moment, but it's beautiful and I love it. Then it cuts to them in Ezra's car and they're basically just talking about, okay, what are we gonna do now? And Arya says something about how she has an idea, but she never goes any further and it doesn't say anything else about it in the episode, so I guess maybe we'll find out in the next one. The next scene is at Spencer's house. It's Spencer, Emily, and Caleb, and he's telling them that he kept a backup file of the video that Hannah destroyed, thank God, but he wants them to keep it from her because obviously she'd be pissed if she found out that they still had it, so I guess they agreed to it. And Caleb's like, alright, well, I'll show it to you if you give me some answers. The boy wants answers. One of the last scenes is in Spencer's room. It's Spencer, Emily, and Arya. And wouldn't you know it, God love him, Caleb finally got some answers. Spencer and Emily told him, like, need-to-know stuff. They told him that Jenna is trying to frame them for Allison's murder, Garrett is helping her, and that Ian's confession probably isn't true. They proceed to watch the rest of the video that they started watching at the beginning of the episode with Ian, Garrett, and Jenna in Allison's room. And they start freaking out because they hear someone come through the front door downstairs. So they're like, oh my God, Allison's home, oh my God, oh my God. And that's when Ian reveals that he's been recording, he picks up the camera and everything, and he says that he recorded it because he wants Garrett to now be in as deep as he is with the whole video thing. I don't know exactly what that means, but I guess we'll find out. And then, you know, Garrett gets pissed because of that, so they start yelling at each other and freaking out even more because they hear whoever came through the front door coming up the stairs. And then Spencer's like, oh my God, this could be the last few seconds of Allison's life. You know, totally dramatic. And then, of course, once again, the camera cuts off. Real cool. Thanks. Then the girls hear something outside, and they look out the window and see that Toby's back from the hospital. So they go downstairs to see him, and he is nowhere to be found. His truck's there with the keys in the ignition, and there's a note for Spencer. And we don't actually get to see what the note says, but Spencer's just like, he's gone. And then it ends. How anticlimactic for such an intense episode. I don't get it. The final scene is cutting up pictures of all the couples and taking the partner side of it, like Ezra, Caleb, Toby, and Maya, throwing that side into the trash can and lighting it on fire. Obviously symbolizing that A is now going to start coming after them. Alright, that's all I got for you guys. I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
'Cause two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.